what if they never returned? And here's the official police advice. In such situations, you may want to enlist the services of a private investigator to assist in your search. If you can't afford a PI, the police elaborate, quote, another option would be to contact the Salvation Army, which has a missing persons locator program. There is not a single sentence on the LAPD website that would lead a loved one of a missing person to have any faith that the police would properly investigate it. What the LAPD is basically saying is, if someone you love goes missing, don't overreact. They'll probably turn up unless they don't, in which case you should get someone besides the police to look into it. All this is my way of saying, if the police took missing persons cases as seriously as they do, say, bank robberies, I wouldn't have had to do this podcast in the first place and end up chasing a violent criminal halfway around the country. I'm Neil Strauss, and you can hear the full story of To Live and Die in LA.
Listen and follow this podcast for free on the iHeartRadio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts all in one.
Martin back here at Target Center in downtown Minneapolis. We head to the fourth quarter, the final game before the WNBA All-Star break. Minnesota a perfect 11-0 at home, trying to protect home court and feel great going into the break against the number 2 team in the WNBA, the team trying to close the gap in the standings. This is a significant one between Minnesota and number 2 Phoenix, who's 3 games behind them. When we look at the WNBA standings, 64-49 is Minnesota's lead. This place on their feet here on a weekday afternoon. On the floor for Minnesota, multiple reserves along with Kayla McBride, Heidemann Shepherd, Kaliundakova on her birthday, and Diamond Miller as well. Every player who's entered this contest has scored. Phoenix with the basketball to start. Deep post up for Brown. Walling up inside is Kaliundakova, and then sprinting the floor here is Shepherd getting all the way into the paint. Leading it off from Miller, who darts inside, loses the basketball. It's wrapped up, and it's going to be a jump ball coming up with Loxa and Miller. What a great stop that was by Kaliundakova. Just so solid and stoic on the defensive side. So Miller and Loxa here. It looked like they were trying to get Kalani Brown in the middle. It is going to be Loxa and Miller. Minnesota shot 50% from the floor in that third quarter. It was tipped out of bounds and will be Phoenix basketball. But Minnesota ended that third quarter on a 20-8 run. It was a 3-point game. Minnesota has led for the vast majority of this contest. Phoenix got within 3, and they took off from there. Brown has it from outside the 3-point line, being hounded by Shepherd, not finding any help. She hands it off to Loxa. It's poked away. Brown picks it up. Complete chaos in this possession. She'll take it to the rim and somehow score. Minnesota looked like they had everyone wrapped up. And here McBride will bring the ball up the floor, crossed over half court, guarded by Sammy Whitcomb. 1 minute into this fourth quarter, 64-51 is Minnesota's lead. Trying to maintain this cushion. Heidemann hesitates along the baseline. Miller lines up a 3, too strong, and the rebound taken in her first start to Dewana Bonner, first time back in Phoenix since 2019 after getting herself out of Indiana. On the free throw line, Whitcomb no good. A good look, but she can't knock it down. Kaliundakova secures the rebound. And McBride kind of orchestrating the offense here. Even with Tisha Heidemann on the floor, she's directing traffic right now, standing at the logo, gets it over to the right wing. Heidemann uses a screen from Kaliundakova, then takes off. Shepherd the mid-range, no good that time. Kaliundakova battling the long rebound out to Kitty Loxa. 64-51 is Minnesota's lead. Trying to get that offense flowing here to start this final frame. Slicing her way through Kiana Williams. Here's Kalani Brown knocking it down from just inside 3-point range. And this second unit, what you can call a second unit, there's only 8 players available for the Phoenix Mercury. Their top 2 scorers out of this game are making a good run here to start the fourth quarter. Minnesota leads 64-53. McBride threads the needle underneath, looking for Shepherd. That's not going to count, although she made it right at the rim, down on the floor. It's going to go on Loxa. So Thomas checking in. And Bonner is going to go take a seat for the Mercury. Same players on the floor for Minnesota. Reserves plus Kayla McBride, recently named to her 5th All-Star game. 7:47 to go. It'll be Minnesota's sideline out of bounds. Heidemann has it right next to the Phoenix bench. 64-53 is Minnesota's lead. Heidemann shouting directions. That's going to be a violation. Oh, no, there's a foul. That might have been a 5-second violation. But instead, there's a foul away from the basketball. And the refereeing crew is going to go look at this play of Roy Golby and Amy Bonner, Sarah Williams. 64-53 is Minnesota's lead. This last play as Minnesota was attempting to inbound it, currently under review right now. The foul was called on Alyssa Thomas. Of course, away from the ball. She was guarding Jessica Shepard, who was closest to the inbounder. She had her forearm into her hip and was pushing her away and trying to deny that ball, being quite physical in pushing Jessica Shepard off of her spot. So this is going to be an away from the play foul. 7:47 to go. So Kayla McBride is going to step up here. Coming back out onto the court. Same teammates with Miller, Heidemann, Kliundakova, and Shepard. So players assembling back onto the court. Free throw here for McBride, and Minnesota will have the basketball as well. So a quick and tidy review there with 7:47 on the clock. And then, of course, you bring up someone who is shooting 94% from the free throw line this season. And McBride is good on the first. It is 65-53 as Minnesota attempts to maintain this cushion. But remember, the last meeting between these two teams, also a noon game and also just 1 week ago, Minnesota led by 7 about midway through the fourth quarter. And Phoenix ended up winning by 8. This is a clutch team. Minnesota wants to take them out of that situation. Here's Heidemann with a three-point play opportunity. Flies into the paint, floats it up and in elegantly, takes the contact. And a free throw coming up here for Natisha Heidemann. Minnesota today with 16 bench points. Normally Phoenix leads in that category. And Heidemann misses the free throw, and the rebound taken by Kalani Brown. Phoenix back on offense. 67-53 is Minnesota's lead. 7:30 to go. Alyssa Thomas getting downhill. Stops on a dime up and under against Kliundakova. Was just in command of that take. 67-55. Alyssa Thomas, just 10 points today, 4 of 15 shooting, but does have 8 assists, 5 turnovers as well. As Kliundakova will knock it down from 3. Nice happy birthday present for Kliundakova. She's got 5 points on 2 of 2 shooting. Plus 2 blocks in this game in 11 minutes. Things go Minnesota's way. Certainly deserves a shout out in the post-game locker room. Superlative. 70-55, Miller with the foul on the other side. Now a sideline out of bounds coming in for Phoenix. Kliundakova guarding Alyssa Thomas, goes under that screen. She kicks it out. Kalani Brown for 3. That's no good. Not something you see all the time. Brown from the offensive rebound, cutting to the rim, up and under, a ferocious take by Kalani Brown. She's looking strong out there again today. She's got 11 points, the third Mercury player in double figures. Minnesota leads 70-57, 6:30 to go. Here's McBride in traffic, lets it fly from 3. No good. Kliundakova offensive rebound, misses at close range, probably wants that one back. And Phoenix now on the run, back to the trailer in Whitcomb. She launches a 3, no good. And the rebound taken, secured by McBride. Phoenix just 5 triples in this game, half of what they average per contest. Kliundakova was trying to post up Whitcomb, and Whitcomb called for the foul. That was another great play by Kliundakova. Saw the mismatch she had on her with the guard in Whitcomb, and she was just trying to bury her deep in the paint. McBride found her on time on targets. And this unit, to good applause behind the Minnesota bench, will go take a seat. Starters on the floor. Heidemann, though, is going to stay in. McBride on the bench right now. Inbounds comes into Heidemann, keeping Loxa on her back, navigating through traffic. Leaves it for Smith. Quick pass. Here's a wide open three for Williams. She drains it. She may have blown a kiss over to the Phoenix bench. I'm not sure, but she had some kind of demonstrative action after that. 73-57 is Minnesota's lead. Maybe she is saying goodbye right at this point. 6 minutes to go. Smith will move it around the perimeter. Heidemann takes the handoff. An offensive foul is going to go on Minnesota and Courtney Williams. Williams has her hands crossed over her chest as she talks to Roy Goldian to try and discuss what she may have done wrong there. A timeout, though, called on the floor. Minnesota very strong in this second half, looking to finish it out and improve to 12-0 at home. As we step aside, 73-57 is their advantage. Listening to Minnesota Lynx basketball.
Looking to shoot your shot and score big, all while giving back to your community? Pilot Games is bringing entertainment with exciting electronic pull tabs to bars and restaurants across Minnesota. Every play is a shot at a jackpot and an assist to a local charity. It's entertainment with a purpose. So next time you're out, look for Pilot Games. Big wins, local impact, nothing but net. Learn more at pilotgames.com.
At Mayo Clinic, we're seeing the unseeable. Using advanced imaging technology, our experts can look deeper into the human body, uncovering the smallest of details that would otherwise go unnoticed, leading to more accurate diagnoses and treatments. We're making more possible at Mayo Clinic because every day we're doing what's never been done. Learn more at mayoclinic.org/possible. Mayo Clinic. You know where to go.
Alex Leibel, too, with you in the WNBA Tonight studios for a final scoreboard update around the association. There was some news announced yesterday that the new Portland franchise set to tip off next season will be named the Portland Fire. And they have quite an interesting logo. I would highly recommend going to look at it with a nice rose to commemorate the city of roses. Portland will be joining the Toronto Tempo, tipping off in 2026. There are 4 other games going on across the association as it's the final day before the All-Star break. The Atlanta Dream all over the Chicago Sky in the Windy City today, 86-49 to improve Atlanta's record to 13-9. The Sky were missing Angel Reese and Ariel Atkins in this one, and the Dream ran away with it. Brittany Griner, 15 points, 5 boards. Alicia Gray, 14, 7, and 5. The Golden State Valkyries are in Seattle, about to tip off with also a 13-9 team, the Seattle Storm. They tip off in about 20 minutes' time. Valkyries have won both games against the Storm this season, and they're trying to finish this first half at 500. If they win, they will be 11-11. The 12-10 Indiana Fever face off in New York against the Liberty, who are without Jonquel Jones for the 9th straight game. Liberty have won 4 and lost 4 in her absence, and the Fever will be without Caitlin Clark, who re-aggravated a groin injury with 40 seconds to go in last night's contest. Let's head back to inside the Target Center Arena for the finish with Sloan Martin.
Thanks, Alex. 73-57 is Minnesota's lead. 5:48 to go. Minnesota working to avoid what happened the last time these two teams met 1 week ago, where Phoenix ended the game on a 19-4 run, turned a 7-point deficit into an 8-point victory, scored the final 10 points of that game. Minnesota has been able to build its largest cushion of the game. Thomas will get it out to Kiana Williams. She darts her wing inside. The floater is no good, but the putback is by Natasha Mack. She's been sneaky on the glass today, and she's got 10 rebounds with her 4 points. Minnesota back with the basketball again. Williams gets it over half court. 73-59 is Minnesota's lead, helping to protect home court, where they're 11-0 this season. Collier working her way through congestion. Leaves it off for Heidemann. Thought about a step back, being guarded by Loxa. 4 seconds to go. She's going to have to do something here. The fade was blocked by Loxa. It'll be a 24-second shot clock violation for Minnesota with 5:07 left. That was another echo of what we saw in Phoenix 1 week ago, where Minnesota had 2 late shot clock violations, which is very rare for this team. Nearly 3, but Courtney Williams bailed them out by hitting a shot at the buzzer of one of them. There's Loxa going to work against Williams. She'll retreat the other direction. 10 seconds now to shoot. Knack puts it on the floor. Getting downhill is Thomas, leaving it off for Kiana Williams. She is fouled. Again, a little bit of a chaotic possession, but Phoenix helped out by that whistle. Minnesota with just one team foul at this point. 73-59 is their lead under 5 minutes to go. Thomas has it against Collier at the logo. Finally able to get free. Has Heidemann on her. Dishes it out. Kiana Williams straight on for three. Leaves it short. Offensive rebound keeps it here. Here is Loxa launching from three. She drains it. She had been 1 of 5. That's her first triple. She's got 5 points. Minnesota still holding on to a double-digit lead, 73-62. 4:20 to go. Williams working a high screen with Smith. Pulls up at the free throw line, is fouled. Free throws coming up here for Courtney Williams. Hey, Lynx fans, Prowl's got a deal that's a catch me out. Prowl's meal deal gets you a ticket, smash burger, or hot dog, fries, and a drink. Pounce on Prowl's meal deal right now at lynxbasketball.com/Prowl meal deal. 4:19 to go. Williams good on the first. She's got 11 points. 4 Lynx players in double figures. McBride with 18. Collier with 10. Alana Smith perfect today for her 11 points. Williams nets her second. Now she has 12. Alyssa Thomas gets it over half court, met by Collier, 75-62. Those are big free throws by Williams. Thomas loses it on the spin, gets it right back, will attack from the free throw line, gets it out to Bonner, and her third game first start with the Mercury. Now 5 seconds to shoot. Bonner on the opposite side of the floor loses the handle, and back to Minnesota. Minnesota makes a stop deep in the shot clock. We've got under 4 minutes to go, 75-62. When you talk about the defense, too, the fact that this Phoenix team, which is a top 5 offense, they are 4th in points per game. They average 82 per contest. They have 62 right now, and they are shooting under 38%. That's certainly a way for the identity of this team and their defense to go into the All-Star break. Big up her dribble at the free throw line is Courtney Williams, bailed out by Smith. She gets it over to Bridget Carlton, gets into the paint, leaves it short. Smith on the attempt, puts it up awkwardly, had a difficult angle. That's no good. And Phoenix takes back the basketball. Westbeld puts it on the floor, blocked emphatically by Alana Smith. It stays here with the Mercury. Loxa can knock it down from the corner. And Courtney Williams comes out of the scrum with the basketball. 75-62, clock on the side of the Minnesota Lynx. Williams weaving one way, then another. The lob comes inside to Collier, facing up against Thomas. She'll get it out to Carlton. Will set a screen. Carlton sets herself along 2, is off target. Offensive rebound, Alana Smith, and Minnesota can milk more time. Smith sets a screen for McBride, drops it over to Collier, poked away by Thomas, lands in the hands of Carlton. 5 seconds to shoot. Launching a 3 is Smith. That's no good. And the rebound collected by Thomas. 75-62 is Minnesota's lead. Kiana Williams launches a 3. That's no good. And Minnesota snares the rebound, inching closer and closer to their 20th win of the season. Cheryl Reeve is going to call a timeout. 2:35 remaining in this contest. Minnesota leads 75-62, looking to further secure their position at the top of the WNBA standings heading into the All-Star break. We're going to step aside. More on Lynx basketball when we come back on the Minnesota Lynx Radio Network.
The free iHeartRadio app is #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one. Discover a new podcast from our library of over 350,000 titles. Here's an iHeartRadio podcast preview.
I'm Mark Murphy. I'm a chef, restaurateur, and all-around curious guy with a true interest in all things food. I've been cooking for over 30 years. I've worked in and owned a number of restaurants, but my experience as a judge on Food Network's Chopped for the past 10 years has really piqued my curiosity in the food culture. I believe there's a story behind every meal, a story behind every person who makes it, a story behind each ingredient used, and I want to know everything I can about it, and that's why we're here. My new podcast, Food 360, will take an all-encompassing look at the world of food, bringing history, science, and culture to the table. You'll get behind-the-scenes stories from my friends in the industry and dig into why we eat the way we do.
I always say the restaurants are like nuclear particles. After 5 years, they start losing their mojo, and you have to re-energize them.
Being a restaurant worker, being a chef, is the biggest privilege of my life. To be able to do that all over the world, it's hard, but it's also one of the things that actually gets me up in the morning.
Truthfully, I'm able to separate, for the most part, my personal likes and dislikes from if a dish is successful in its preparation and judge if it has merit. And I think a lot of it also comes from the chef's intention.
The most important thing for me is not my writing ego. It's getting people to cook delicious food.
Be sure to subscribe to Food 360 on the iHeartRadio app.
75-62 is Minnesota's lead here at Target Center. Sloan Martin along with you. Final game before the All-Star break, and this matchup between the top two teams in the WNBA. The Minnesota Lynx right at the top of the standings, leading this Mercury team by 3 games entering today, and that's what made this contest so critical. The Mercury, they're able to win. 75-62 is Minnesota's lead with 2:35 to go. But they would have come within 2 games of the Lynx. So the fact that Minnesota, at the tail end of a stretch of 11 games in 20 days that included 2 back-to-backs, including on the road, would be able to come out on top here would be significant for this team, launching them into the All-Star break and feeling good at 20-4 and protecting home court where they are 11-0 this season. Minnesota's got to close the door, though, here. 75-62 is their lead. They immediately turned it over after the timeout. Shepard goes over to the scorer's table. Kliundakova on the floor for the Minnesota Lynx. No Nafisa Collier on the court either. Diamond Miller in her place. Tasha Mack is going to hand it off to Westbeld. Over to Kiana Williams. Gets past McBride. Leaves it for Westbeld. For 3, she's good. She had been 0 for 7 today overall. Her first bucket. 2:05 on the clock. It is 75-65. Minnesota on top. And off to McBride. McBride orchestrating things here. Drops it off to Kliundakova. She flips it up and in for 2. Really solid game for Maria Kliundakova and really this entire bench unit as McBride gives her a high five and a big hug. Those two played together in Russia for a couple of years. You can just see how much pride, even watching warm-ups today. Assistant coach Rebecca Brunson, they were going over film together, have laptops in front of them, and watching film coming into the contest. And she just gave her a huge embrace, big smile on her face, celebrating her birthday. And what good feelings for Kliundakova as she today at 13 minutes, 7 points, 3 of 4 shooting, 4 rebounds, and 2 blocks. That's exactly what you want to see from your backup post player. And she has met what's been asked of her. She hasn't gotten into every game. She hasn't gotten big minutes every single game, but she just goes about her job. And I think that's what's making her a really solid fit here for the Minnesota Lynx as she joined after the start of the season. For this entire bench unit, 21 points, led by Jessica Shepard's 8 points. And even going back to the first quarter, I thought that Shepard's play, her facilitating the match under this team, it was so critical, even that early in the game, where Minnesota was able to take a double-digit lead and, for the most part, keep that cushion throughout this entire game. It's not going to be a wire-to-wire win for the Minnesota Lynx. It's 74-65, 154 to go, but it is close enough. The last lead for the Phoenix Mercury was when it was 5-4 early on in the first quarter. No starters in the game, actually just one in Westbeld for the Phoenix Mercury as Kiana Williams takes off to the rim. That is no good. Free throws coming up. And all role players on the floor on both sides. For Minnesota, it is Heidemann. Alari Kosu gets into the game for the first time, the 20-year-old Russian, along with Shepard, Kliundakova, and Miller. Before we make things all but official, Williams good on the first. It is 77-66, 147 to go. But for Minnesota, I think one of the most impressive things today is they were able to limit the Mercury to 29% shooting from 3 as Miller picks up the rebound off that missed free throw. But they were also able to limit them in the paint, just 30 points in the paint for the Phoenix Mercury. It didn't have to be a trade-off. And even said something along those lines, talking with my partner Alex Leibold at our pregame show about how Minnesota's going to really dig deep into that. Here's Laurie Kosu, her first attempt from three. That's no good. Can't save it from going out of bounds. But Kosu, this team really believes in her high ceiling. First time in the WNBA from Russia, played against multiple WNBA players. One of the youngest players to ever play EuroLeague basketball. But putting a lot of time into working on her shot to try and crisp that up. Here's the Mercury with the basketball. 77-66 is Minnesota's lead. Here's Westbell launching a three. That's no good. The rebound fought for by multiple Lynx players and finally corralled by Kliundakova. We've got 1 minute to go. Here on camp day, something Coach Reeve talks about being so special because all the young kids get to come, get to see these powerful, dominant women as Kliundakova bullies her way inside, backing down from outside the paint, and then finishes with a flourish at the cup. More good feelings for the Lynx, because that means everybody scored. Everybody's gotten in the game, and everybody has scored. What a way to go into the All-Star break. Not having things linger, things you wish were different, and having to sit on that for a couple of days, but instead, really enjoy it. And I hope they do after this 11-game and 20-day stretch. Here's Diamond Miller from the elbow. No good that time. And Phoenix with the rebound. Less than a second different shot in game clock. Laurie Kosu is able to jostle the ball free. Picks it up in transition, but it was snatched away again by Phoenix. Shot clock is off. We got 10 seconds to go before this one goes official. Fans on their feet here at Target Center. The final score, 77-66, Minnesota. Best the second place team in the WNBA. They improve to 20-4 this season and 12-0 at home. Those are the markings of a very special team. They came into this game with the second best 23-game start in franchise history. They continue one of the best starts in franchise history, only rivaled by the 2017 WNBA championship squad. That says a lot about where this team is at heading into the All-Star break. Again, the final 79-66. And we'll see who will be joining us here shortly as the team celebrates. But before we do that, let's step aside for a moment to allow our member stations to identify themselves.
Hear every Minnesota Timberwolves game this season on the all-new Timberwolves channel. Here on the iHeartRadio app. iHeartRadio.
79-66 is Minnesota's victory here at Target Center. They are 20-4 on the year, 12-0 at home. A very balanced effort on both sides. In our next segment, we'll go over this entire box score, but Minnesota had 4 in double figures, led by Kayla McBride's 18 points, 5 of 11 shooting. Her 5th All-Star game. What a way for her to step into this weekend to a replacement for Ryan Howard. But it's going to be quite a Lynx weekend in Indianapolis with 3 All-Stars, with Courtney Williams, Nafisa Collier, and Kayla McBride. And then also with Cheryl Reeve as the head coach. And she said, you can never take for granted having that opportunity. And knowing that the reason you're being rewarded is because you have that best record. She'll be coaching Team Fee. And Nafisa Collier is acting like she really wants to win that game, put together a competitive roster, and we will see how that goes. We are joined here by Alana Smith. Thanks so much for joining us, Lan. Congratulations on this victory. This was not a wire-to-wire victory, but it was close. What did you feel like this team was able to harness to go into the All-Star break with a really strong victory against the second-place team in the W?
I mean, we just had a really hard stretch of games. The schedule was hectic, and so I think finishing on a win was really important for us, and just learning from what we saw on the road. So I'm really proud of us pushing through and playing 4 12 o'clock games in a week.
Yeah, for the last 5 is what you guys have done. I wanted to ask you, too, and you guys have been nothing but professional talking about this stretch, 11 games in 20 days. But you talk about the perseverance this team has shown, going on the road, back-to-backs, the last 3 weeks to really gut it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every lead that you can think of. It's really, really hard. And I think we had some losses that we weren't proud of, but we fought back after those losses, which I think is a testament to us. And we got through that stretch, ending on a win, which is our goal today. And so we can say goodbye to that and watch film and not have to think about it anymore, thank God.
Really balanced today for you guys. You knocked down 3 threes. What was the feeling on the offensive side, really from the get-go, that it felt like it really never let up?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've been really emphasizing is our offense and getting it to flow, and it's been a little bit clunky lately, but I think when we're hitting shots and we're moving the ball and we're moving with pace, it looks really, really good. Like you said, it's balanced. Everybody eats, and I think we've just got so much talent on this team that we're super hard to guard when the ball hits everybody's hands.
Lan, last one for you, looking big picture, if I can, for a moment. First half of the season is over. You guys are undefeated at home, 12-0. You're 20-4. Your overall thoughts about where this team stands right now, top of the standings, that's what we see on paper, but just how it feels heading into the break for you guys.
Yeah, no, I think we're feeling pretty good with where we're at in the standings, but it's something that we want to learn from. Like I said, we want to learn from those 4 losses that we had. We're trying to win every game that we play. So going into this next half of the season, we're going to see some teams that we haven't played against before. And so we have to stay really, really locked in and with that same goal of winning.
Alana Smith, congratulations on this win. Thanks so much. Enjoy this break.
Thank you.
79-66 is Minnesota's victory here at Target Center, 20-4 this season. To wrap up the first half, we're heading into the All-Star break, and we'll talk about that and more coming up. Our post-game show is up next year on the Lynx Radio Network. When we come back, we'll see if we can hear from head coach Cheryl Reed, maybe some players in their post-game press conferences from right here in Target Center. I'll break down what happened in this one, the box score as well. Minnesota 20-4 this season. We'll talk about it when we come back on the Minnesota Lynx Radio Network.
Hey there, I'm Jason Alexander, and this is my dear friend, Peter Tilden.
Hey, Jay. By the way, the script says best friend.
Yes, it does, Peter. Anyway, Peter and I met over 25 years ago and became really good friends.
Best friends?
Because we had 2 things in common. Number 1, we like to argue about everything. Driving, food, music.
No, we don't. And number 2, when things annoy us or they perplex us or just don't seem to make any sense, whether it's something in the news or in our personal lives, we go, really, no, really.
And then we have to find answers.
So we created a podcast called Really No Really. It's about finding the answers to all the things that make us go, really, no, really. Jerry Seinfeld wondered why they refused to make the stall door go all the way to the floor in a public bathroom, but he didn't get an answer. We did by reaching out to an expert.
And talking dogs. Really? No, really? We spoke to the pet parent of a dog who's become a social media star to find out if pressing buttons on a soundboard with a paw or a nose is truly communicating, or are they just showing off?
Competitive eaters, they don't chew during competitions. How about that?
Really? No, really?
That's what we heard. So we spoke to some of the biggest champions of the hot dog eats hot dog world of competitive eating to get the answer. And those are just a few of the things we'll explore on the Really No Really podcast with Jason Alexander and Peter Tilden.
Listen on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Open your free iHeart app and listen now.
Alyssa Thomas throwing it up over Collier. No good off glass, and the rebound ripped down by Collier. An example of having to hold off someone like Alyssa Thomas, who can put up a triple-double almost any night. Carlton goes to the opposite side of the floor. Wide open is Smith for 3. Alana Smith is perfect from the floor. 3 of 3 overall. That's her second triple and she's got 8 points for the Lynx. Slicing her way through a Sammy Whitcomb. She misses at the rim, and the rebound lands in the hands of Williams. Slicing through, extra pass, one more. McBride to Carlton. Yes! That is Minnesota Lynx unselfish basketball, leading to an open three, and Minnesota all of a sudden leading 54-41. That was tonight's Mayo Clinic moment of excellence. At Mayo Clinic, we're doing what's never been done. Nearly a wire-to-wire victory. Minnesota last trailed when it was 5-4. And then just took command of this game. One of the most impressive things was the storm that they weathered by this second-place Phoenix Mercury team. We'll talk about that in just a moment here. Sloan Martin with you as the start of our post-game show, the last one here before the All-Star break. Minnesota going to have a couple days off. 3 All-Stars making their way to Indianapolis. Their head coach and Cheryl Reeve as well. But what a way to mark the break of this season with the 79-66 win over the Phoenix Mercury. Let's talk about this one. Going back to the first quarter where Minnesota shot 47%. They held the Mercury to 2 of 14. And that's why it felt like this game was determined so early on. This wasn't a blowout. This wasn't a rout by any means. This is the second place team in the WNBA without their 2 leading scorers. But I thought that this game was even won going back to that first quarter. 2 of 14 was Phoenix in that first frame. Minnesota led by 11, 21-10. And I thought that just set such an example. It set the tone for what this team wanted to do 1 week from losing to this Phoenix team in another noon game in Arizona and wanting to get back in the win column against this squad. Minnesota officially takes the season series with their final game of the regular season here today. A couple of them with really exciting finishes. In the second contest, they hit 59% of their shots. It was a fun series between these two teams, certainly, but Minnesota will come out on top. And you never know when that could be proving extremely important down the stretch when we're talking about home court advantage and how that's going to work out the rest of the way, looking deep into the season as we can now turn our attention to the second half. I thought Jessica Shepard was outstanding in the first quarter and a big reason why Minnesota was able to have an 11-point lead. She had 6 points, 2 assists, 3 of 3 shooting, and she was this confident spark that this team needed to go along with the defense that they were executing with. It was very impressive to start this game. On to the second quarter. The Mercury understandably fought back. It was actually a reversal. They outscored the Lynx 23-16 when it was the direct flip of that in the first quarter. The Mercury in that second frame shoot 47%, starting to find their offense at that point. Minnesota still shot 40% from the floor, got 7 points apiece from McBride and Williams, keeping this team afloat. Minnesota, of course, had their largest lead of 11 points. At the half, it was a 3-point lead for the Lynx, and this was looking a little shaky at the end of that first half. The Phoenix Mercury were able to go on a run. Head coach Cheryl Reeve even talked pregame to media to say this is a team that performs incredibly well in the clutch. And I know this was the end of the first half, not the end of a game, but coaches always want to see their teams execute as best they can to close out quarters and close out halves. And this Phoenix Mercury team was able to lean into that, something they do extremely well. Whitcomb had 9 points at the half. Alyssa Thomas was not much of a scoring factor today at the half. She was 2 of 10 shooting for 6 points herself. Minnesota on the other side led by Kayla McBride with 12 points, and they were still able to have this lead against the number 2 team in the WNBA despite Nafisa Collier at the first half, or at halftime I should say, having just 2 points on 1 of 5 shooting. But the Mercury able to close the gap to end that first half. But it was the Minnesota Lynx who responded right back in the third quarter, putting up 27 points. At one point going on a 20-8 run after the Mercury were able to get it within 3. So what a response by the Minnesota Lynx that we have become so accustomed to, even within game. After that halftime break, in the final game of an 11-game in 20-day stretch, their ability to dig deep to withstand a run by a very talented Phoenix Mercury team. In that frame, Alana Smith had 9 points, 3 of 3 shooting. Those triples were critical. Nafisa Collier came out of the halftime locker room with 2 points. She had 8 in that third quarter. Minnesota extended its lead to 15. That lead would grow to 16 points in the fourth quarter. Courtney Williams put up 5 points in that frame, and Minnesota was able to win pretty handily here. Again, they last trailed when it was 5-4. That's a pretty strong victory in my book. The final 79-66. Minnesota shoots 43% from the floor for the game, holds Phoenix to 36%. But I think what is so impressive is they allowed only 7 threes to this Phoenix Mercury team, normally knocking down on average 10 per game, which leads the WNBA. When you look at Phoenix coming into this game, they shoot 38% from three against everyone else in the WNBA, but 12.5% against the Minnesota Lynx. Today, they shot 27%. So Minnesota able to shut down the identity of this team from beyond the arc, but more impressively, hold the Mercury to only 30 points in the paint. After this Mercury team scorched them in the paint in Phoenix. 56 points they scored in the paint in that most recent matchup 1 week ago. So Minnesota able to really keep tabs on the entirety of the court for this team that is the top defense for the top team in the WNBA. Looking more closely here individually, Collier finishes, Alana Smith finishes with 11 points. Kayla McBride with 18 for the Minnesota Lynx. Collier has 10 points, 4 of 9 shooting, her lowest scoring game of this season. But when it comes in a handy victory like this, when you get so much balance, you get 23 bench points. She was able to sit on the bench for much of that fourth quarter, too. She also got 5 rebounds and 3 steals and a block as well. Williams with 12 points, 4 of 11 shooting. Minnesota with 10 threes. And that's 44% from long range in this game. An all-around, top-to-bottom victory. And most importantly, a bounce back against a team that defeated them just 1 week ago. Minnesota improves to 20-4 this season. They are 12-0 here at Target Center. All right, we're going to have more coming your way here on the Lynx Radio Network. My partner, Alex Leibold, from right here in our studio at Target Center, is going to join me after the break. We'll wrap things up when we return right here on the Lynx Radio Network.
2 bands, 1 night. Bachman Turner Overdrive. The Marshall Tucker Band. Roll on down the Highway 2025 tour. Saturday, July 19th, live at the Treasure Island Amphitheater with special guest Jefferson Stark. A night of vintage PTO. A night of classic Marshall Tucker Band. Tickets on sale now at TICasino.com.
At Mayo Clinic, we are predicting the unpredictable. Our experts are using a patient's own anatomy to create 3D printed, life-size organ models to map out challenges ahead of time, making complex surgeries more precise, efficient, and less invasive. We are making more possible at Mayo Clinic because every day we're doing what's never been done. Learn more at mayoclinic.org/possible. Mayo Clinic, you know where to go.
Sloan Martin back with you from Target Center, where we're going to wrap things up here. Minnesota improving to 20-4 this season with their 79-66 victory over the Phoenix Mercury. And I'll welcome in my partner right here at Target Center, Alex Leibold, to talk more about this one. And I think, Alex, based on what we've seen this season, the identity that they've established, and just what we've seen time and time again, we were expecting a bounce back, another opportunity to take on a team that defeated them 1 week ago. But this just felt like a quintessential Minnesota Lynx game where it is balanced, it is unselfish, and it's defined by defense.
It felt that way from the jump, didn't it? You mentioned that the first quarter they went up by 11. The Mercury 2 for 14 in that first quarter. They missed their final 12 shots of the first frame. The Lynx made it really almost impossible for them to find a good open look. And I think you said it perfectly, a great response win for this team that lost to Phoenix 7 days ago. And I think one of the bigger aspects of how they got this win was how they were able to hold excuse me, they were able to hold Alyssa Thomas. I don't know what just happened there. To just 12 points. She had 9 assists, which is about her season average, but she finished the first half just 1 for 10 from the field, finishing 5 for 16. So she had a better second half for sure. But the Lynx were able to get it from everybody tonight or this afternoon. They got everyone on their bench to score who played the field. Even Alari Kosu, who just played the final 2 minutes of that contest, was able to find a steal and a bucket herself. So they got prime big buckets from everybody up and down the lineup. Napheesa Collier, like you said, had a bit of a quieter afternoon, but she finished the second half. She was 4 for 4 from the field. So after starting 1 for 5, she found her shooting. And those buckets came at a big time, especially in that third quarter where, like you said, they were the Mercury had cut their deficit down to just 3 points. And then before you knew it, 10 straight points, 2 buckets from Fee, and then a 3-pointer from Alana Smith and Bridget Carlton that ballooned that lead back up to 13 to really keep Phoenix at bay and hold them out so that they couldn't even try and take a lead themselves in that second half. So an all-around great performance. And the bench, like you mentioned again, 23 points from the bench. You can never, ever be a bad thing when your bench is scoring that many points and racking up rebounds and assists. And I think it was 16 rebounds from the bench unit alone of their season high 44. So the effort area of rebounding that Cheryl Reeve loves to emphasize was on point tonight or this afternoon.
No, it certainly was in the 79-66 victory. Maybe the one thing that Coach Reeve and the coaching staff might be looking at, it's not just, going to be coasting into the All-Star break. It never is for any coach, I think, is that Minnesota had 15 turnovers that led to 21 Phoenix points. And that is something that, if you think about, that was even halved or even slightly diminished. This would have even been a bigger victory for the Minnesota Lynx. But I want to ask you too, Alex, because to me, this one was critical to the standings. Not that anything's going to be decided right at this moment. If Minnesota had lost, they would have split the season series. They would have still had a 2-game lead in the standings, but it felt like that would have opened the door a little bit more to the Phoenix Mercury, because you also think about New York is going to be getting Jonquel Jones back, presumably healthy after the All-Star break, and Minnesota hasn't played them just yet. So even though this was just one game, or at this point in the season, at the midway point, this felt significant for maintaining their stature in the standings.
A big confidence boost, especially like you mentioned, heading into this contest. Mercury 3 games behind. If they had won, it would have been a 2-point gap at the top of the standings for the Lynx to hold on to for the rest of the season. Being up 4 games now with the tiebreaker over the Mercury as well really goes a long way for the Lynx team that has these championship aspirations. And Coach Reeve was saying it all last year that if you are a favorite team in the playoffs and you have that home court advantage, all you have to do is win your home games and you will advance to the next round. And the Lynx are putting themselves in a prime position to do just that and to show that they can flex their muscle at home. Now 12-0 on their home floor. They're only the 5th team in WNBA history to win their first 12 games at home. The other teams, 2 of them actually won every single game at home. The 2010 Seattle Storm won 17 of their 34, 17 at home, and the 2001 Sparks won all 16 home games. So the Lynx are putting themselves in some pretty rare territory with 12 straight home wins, and that confidence will definitely carry over into the second half of the season and into the playoffs.
Alex, before we look ahead, I think one thing we should talk about here is we kind of, put a bow on this first half of the season, that if there is any conversation for MVP that doesn't start with Napheesa Collier, for Coach of the Year that does not start with Cheryl Reeve, for 6th Player of the Year, I'm going to put Natisha Heidemann. She's one of the leading scorers off the bench, so critical to this best team in the WNBA. Then it is not a serious conversation about any of those awards. Those are ones that really stand out to me. Minnesota with 3 All-Stars, but when you look at how these things might be lining up, those are really compelling cases to be made at this point.
Yeah, and on top of that, you can even consider Alana Smith for all-defense first team.
Oh, for sure.
She was all-defense second team last year, and she has really made a jump. You could maybe even consider a most improved player in that aspect. But the Lynx have award-caliber players up and down this whole roster and in the coaching staff, as you mentioned. It really is an impressive thing to be able to witness game in and game out, watching this Lynx team play not only individually, where you see the playmaking of Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann, or the speed of Natisha Heidemann, or just the effort of Jessica Shepard on the glass and in and around the paint, or just Napheesa Collier's utter dominance on the court. It just from top to bottom, this is a a true championship caliber team, and they're going to make a deep run.
Very well said. Minnesota, with this victory, improves to 20-4 this season, 12-0 at home. And it looks like head coach Cheryl Reeve about to meet with the media here at the podium at Target Center.
Good minutes today, made the most of them. The game came easy for her. And then just, rebounding wise, just she just hunts it. She's aggressive. We need it. And, so both ends, Jess was special today.
Coach, just wanted to talk about the atmosphere. Obviously, the kids, just wanted to talk about with that, the energy that the crowd brought the team as well.
Yeah. And we talked about before the game, we're changing lives. This is that game today. We're changing lives in all different ways. And but their energy, Wade told me we have some of the smartest young fans. They know the game. She's partial to Minnesotans, youth in Minnesota. She was especially impressed with them knowing the words to every song that was played. And they gave us energy, a basic thing in the beginning that, we got to hit our non-camp day fans and say, hey, you need to, take a little lesson there. That was impressive, what they were doing. And it fired our players up. It was a fun day.
And then obviously the all-star, newly acquired all-star, K-Mac. We know what she does from the shooting perspective. Just what does she bring to the game that besides the shooting, obviously defensively as well, she locked in 2 steals.
Yep.
But what does she bring to the team as well?
Yeah, obviously the leadership. Can't, when she's been through, in her career, so many situations that we count on her heavily in moments in the game when it gets tough or when we start moving players around. K-Mac initiate this time, so-and-so do this. She's the one that helps us get people organized. She's good off the board when we're writing it and just making sure that people know where they're going to be. And she's a playmaker. I thought her approach today was so good, understanding what's going to be available against Phoenix and, the balance of perimeter shots as well as attacking. I thought Mac did a great job of that today.
Sloan Martin back here at Target Center, Minnesota, with a 79-66 victory over the second-place Phoenix Mercury. And this felt like, I don't want to say a statement win, but I think going into the All-Star break, feeling good about what they did on the court to wrap up an 11-game in 20-day stretch. Really an insane stretch. And, Alex, for them to come away with 2 losses, not including the Commissioner's Cup game because it doesn't count. So 2 losses in this absolute gauntlet of a stretch makes me really excited for the second half. And looking ahead of the second half, Minnesota's going to play New York for the very first time and in quick succession later in the month and into August too. But we know things ramp up across the WNBA. What are some things you're looking at with this Lynx schedule or just the W overall as we head into the second half?
Well, the Lynx have their first 4 games coming out of the break at home, so I think that'll be a really good moment for this Minnesota team to stay in their own apartments after having that tough 4-game road stretch right before this game in Phoenix. They traveled to Phoenix, then to LA, and into Chicago for 2 days. As Sloan, I'm sure you travel with the team, but those 4 games at home will be important for the Lynx. Obviously, they're trying to improve on their 12-0 home record, but they see Chicago again for the 4th time in 6 games coming out of the All-Star break, so a lot of familiarity there. Should see some adjustments. The Sky will be Sky are currently dealing with Ariel Atkins and Angel Reese injuries, so we'll see if they'll be available come the end of the break. But I'm really looking forward to the Lynx seeing the Liberty for the first time at the end of the month. They'll see the Indiana Fever for the first time later in August. But I'm interested in these Lynx players, Courtney Williams, Kayla McBride, Nafisa Collier, all have this All-Star break coming up where they're going to be taking part in the pomp and circumstance of what's going on in Indianapolis. There will be a 5-day stretch in the middle of August where the Lynx get no games from Monday to Friday. They'll have a solid 5-day break, and I think that's going to really serve fruitful for this team dealing with some tired legs after an 11-game, 20-day stretch. They'll get those 5 days off to really rest up and get themselves ready for the home stretch of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure that gave them solace. At some point, we will have practice again, that we will have some days off again, and that is eventually coming your way. And I think you're right that may time out really well. Maybe call it a bye week of sorts, that, Minnesota is going to have a little bit of a breather before they get into that stretch. So a lot of interesting developments to come for this Minnesota Lynx team. One of the best starts in franchise history. and starting to author what could be one of the most special seasons overall. 20-4 this season, the final today over the Phoenix Mercury, 79-66. For Alex Leibel, my partner in the studio, I'm Sloan Martin. Thanks so much for tuning into Minnesota Lynx basketball. Minnesota with its 20th win. They are undefeated at home. I appreciate you tuning in here on the Minnesota Lynx Radio Network. We'll catch you after the break.
Find your iHeartRadio everywhere. There are hundreds of ways to experience iHeartRadio at home and on the go, beyond the iPhone and Android app, and at iHeartRadio.com. Here's another way to connect to iHeartRadio. On the road again? Can't drive 55? Trying to catch me riding dirty? No car ride is complete without the perfect soundtrack. That's why iHeartRadio wants to complete your commuting and road tripping experience by integrating with the world's largest navigation app, Waze. Now, while you navigate turn by turn in Waze, you can also stay connected to your favorite stations, playlists, and podcasts from iHeartRadio. Just tap on the music icon from the Waze navigation screen and select iHeartRadio to listen to all your favorite content. iHeartRadio, everywhere you want to listen, including in the car through Waze on iPhone and Android. Check it out for free now. iHeartRadio, anywhere you want to listen. iHeartRadio is there.
You've been listening to Lynx Basketball, brought to you by U.S. Bank, an official partner of the Minnesota Lynx, equal housing lender, member FDIC, and by Mayo Clinic. You know where to go. This has been a presentation of the Lynx Radio Network.
14 coming down to the end of the first quarter, and the Sky already lost to the Dream 86-49. Angel Reese did not play due to a leg injury, while the Lynx took down the Mercury 79-66. In golf news, Oakmont Country Club has banned golfer Wyndham Clark from its property after he damaged his locker following a miscut at last month's U.S. Open. Now, the ban can be lifted, according to the report, if he pays for damages, makes a meaningful contribution to a charity selected by the country club board, and undergoes counseling and or anger management therapy. So he's got to do all that in order to get that ban lifted. Back to you, Coach.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. All right, John Middlecoff joins us. 3 and Out is, in fact, the podcast, but he also has the Going Low podcast. I used to be a club thrower and a mutterer, but I'm not good enough, nor do I play or practice enough to be that guy. What are you like on a bad day on the course?
I'm with you. When I was younger, I was, my dad probably wanted to kill me. It's an awful look. I would say as I've gotten into my 30s, I just enjoy being outside in the sun. So whether I'm shooting 75 or 90, the occasional F-bomb, but the days of throwing clubs and kicking in, lockers like Wyndham Clark are long gone. The occasional, throw your hands up in the air, that's human, like Scotty did last week. But what Wyndham Clark this year has been on a tear.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What do you think of? Again, I know we usually talk football, but you also do the golf podcast. Scotty Scheffler's remarks yesterday in regards to just kind of being empty after winning majors, especially the 2 Masters.
What's funny is I'm glad you talked about this, because I saw you talk about this yesterday. I think I saw it on social media for about 8 minutes. I think there are a lot of different variables, because I know your take and the emotion with some of these younger guys never used to get talked about. There was a clip I saw today, probably about an hour ago, of Padraig Harrington, who's a Tiger generation, was almost offended. He's like, what's he even talking about? I think there are some parallels. Remember a couple of years ago, Adam Silver said all of his players were miserable?
Yeah.
And I would say Scotty Scheffler over the last 18 months, starting last year through this year, has probably made $100 million. He made 65 last year just on the course. So if you factor in Nike, which he's obviously, him and Rory are their lead dogs, by winning those tournaments, winning the majors, the bonuses he got might have been $20 million. TaylorMade, he's made so much money where he's like, he could quit today and financially never has. I do think that has ramifications, and I think the NBA is the same way. It's like you're playing. Kevin Durant was a good example. He's like, I won, no one really cared, and then it's like, what do I do now? and I think these guys now, because they live on social media, Scotty not necessarily, but they have so much money and the accomplishment. Like back in the day, even like when Tiger first started, you were constantly climbing because you had to earn it. You had to earn it. Now it's like if you do have success, you get paid so much money, and I do think that just warps, in your 20s, how you just think about things. But I also say this, Scotty's comments, if you just read them, you'd be like, God, this guy doesn't really care. Like, his actions speak differently, right? He's won essentially 15, 16 times over the last 2 years. So his effort and how much he tries, it's not like he's been fazed by the money. So you could argue, if you watch that whole thing, he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth because he says he gets emotional and he cries, but also what's it all for? But it's not like he's lazy, right? It's not, he's working just as hard as you'd say, like, well, Mahomes and Kelsey are still on the grind even after all the championship. Like, Scotty's still working like he's Tiger. But I do think there's that generation of guy. I mean, even Rory won the Masters. He's like, yeah, I'm kind of over it now, So can you imagine Tiger or Brady or MJ talking like that? Kobe? No chance.
No, I think there's a lot to it. I also think I don't know what youth golf is like, but I can tell you that there's been a lot of discussions about like youth basketball, and there are so many more tournaments that winning one isn't as special as it used to be. Now, granted, you're talking about majors, you're talking about the Masters, there's only one, but when you've played in 5x the tournaments of other people, then winning one does not seem like nearly as big a thing. I mean, look, that by the way, that's a comment that everyone I know was talking about yesterday. That's really the interesting part about it. Everyone I know was talking about it.
In fairness, he mentioned like regular PGA events, like the Byron Nelson in his backyard. He didn't mention the Masters, which obviously means a lot to no matter who. I do think there's some, that's where the NBA comp, or just basketball, like regular season game, like what is this? Who cares? And like winning a regular PGA event, who cares? I think there's some element to what he said that parallels like football world, right? Whenever you win a game, let's say we're watching Sunday Night Football and the Chiefs beat the Broncos, and you're interviewing Patrick Mahomes. He's like, well, we gotta stay focused because we got the Chargers coming up. It just isn't that kind of sports. Like you're just always kind of on to the next thing. So I don't know. There are a lot of angles to this. I do think his actions back up that he really cares, right? Because he's been so good now for 2 years. It's not like he's resting on his laurels, right? He's grinding and practicing, and he even mentioned that. That's where I'm saying he was kind of ranting, but it's not like he had one specific point beside like, yeah, sometimes you win, you realize like no one actually cares after a while.
Yeah. It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Okay, let's turn to the National Football League. So many little little stories sort of to get through and to kind of sort of figure out. By the way, Barry Sanders' birthday is today. I bring it up. I bring it up because, like anytime you think somebody had a great year in college football, check out Barry Sanders' year. You're like, oh yeah, that was a lot better. I think that Saquon is the first guy who I can actually have a reasonable conversation that does some of those freaky things. We've had great backs, like Derrick Henry's a great back. Like you kind of go back. There's been all different big ones, little ones. Marshall Faulk, his ability to catch out of the backfield or whatever. But in terms of doing things where you make people miss and you jump over people or make them look almost like Keystone Cops, I think Saquon's the first guy since Barry Sanders to do that. Am I forgetting anybody?
Yeah, I think physically from a strength standpoint, that was always the underrated part about like Barry, like his size, how strong he was. I mean, some of those epic, like him dragging guys that were holding on for dear life. I would say that Barry was, I mean, in this day and age, obviously, he would dominate in any area. He would have been viewed also like an LT Marshall Faulk catching the ball. I would say Saquon has solid hands, but I wouldn't call him like Christian McCaffrey, right? Now, the difference is, like Barry, like you don't need to be a great running back. You don't need exceptional, like high-end speed. Like you can be an all-time great, like Frank Gore. He couldn't outrun anyone, but you're just a really, really good player. Now, if you do have the home run hitting speed like Adrian Peterson, then it's like you can be a major problem. And I think that is Saquon's kind of curveball, is like he gets in the open field, he's literally faster than everyone else. Even McCaffrey, let's assume he's healthy this year, he's going to get caught a decent amount. And I would say Barry, like Saquon, like they got in the open field and there was green grass, and Bo Jackson, like they see ya. So it's like, and that's what makes Saquon so fun. Is I think last year, was it 6 or 7 60-plus yard runs? And that's part of, I would imagine anytime you find a 2,000-yard rusher, they had a decent amount of chunk runs, right? It's not all just 5 and 6 yard carries.
Yeah, he was so amazing last year. Okay, let's kind of go around the league here. Let's start with, I think the most interesting team this year is the Steelers. We've talked about them a good amount. Let's kind of start getting to the actual football league talkie. What do you think of the roster compilation that they've made? Haven't extended T.J. Watt to this point. What do you think of what Pittsburgh has roster-wise heading into the year?
I think they're just so predicated on the quarterback staying healthy, and historically, how often do guys, once they get over 40, he's an injury that maybe used to go away in a week, last a month. He can't scramble around like he used to, and he's not, he's obviously a good pocket player, but his game hasn't been predicated like Peyton or Brady, where he just sits there his entire career, because that's not how he had to play. So I just, what's more likely, Rodgers plays 17 games and throws 32 touchdowns, or you look at Rodgers, game log in 10 years and he starts 9 of them because he has some injuries. So I think that's going to be the problem. I just have a hard time seeing him play healthy. And listen, they say a lot of times it happens in basketball too, like the second year returning from the Achilles is when you get it back. That's fine, but he's not 30, he's 41. So even if he's a little sprier than he was last year, it's clear he's not the, kind of the young, vibrant guy that could. He was never Lamar, but scrambling behind the line of scrimmage was a huge part of his game. Hell, look at Russell Wilson, who feels like he's gotten slower movement-wise behind the line of scrimmage, doesn't look nearly the same, and that was always Rodgers' superpower. So